And and we are live now, folks. So hey folks, this is me Vishwasna and I'm the host of this podcast. A lot of times, I aspire to be a product leader, but there is a huge misunderstanding that I have got over a course of time, right? Like, there is a different set of learning that has to go through if you want to be a product leader because you have to think the product market fit, the market analysis, and you have to be very close to the customer, by the way. You can't be like, sitting in one corner of your cabinet and just making a lot of decisions that thinking that this product is going to be good. It's never going to happen. And today, I'm with one of those prolific leaders that I look back in the product space and I say to myself that I aspire to be somebody like him. And that's Gaurav Chanchal.
Oh,
And thanks to Gaurav Chanchal for accepting this podcast and coming on my show means a lot. Today's podcast is not just a regular GenAI tech podcast. Sorry for that. I'm just not used to that hype now because I'm done with it. But today it's all about building you as a product leader, building you yourself as a product leader over a course of time. And it's a journey, by the way. So in that journey, Gaurav Chanchal is going to guide you. Thank you so much, sir, for being on my show. Means a lot.
thank you so much, Vishwas. I hope it's going to be interesting for everyone and best use of their time as well.
Yep.
Thank you for
Let's
having me.
get it started. Yep. That's true. All right. Let's understand this basic of what a product manager or a product leader need to understand and how to balance the roadmap between an company's roadmap and a customer's requirement because people juggle with it, right? People say that we have to go out with this feature, but still there is a customer who is saying that I need more amount of features that is going to be helpful in my production system. There's a lot of things that is going on. So let's talk about what is product management or product space and then navigate through that roadmap journey and speaking with
Yeah.
the customer requirements.
Okay. So if I have to take a step back into this, I've spent almost 2 decades in the industry and started my career from time and the segment of market where there was no clear definition of a product managers as well. So in like around 2005, 2010 era, there was in large companies like Infosys, Tech Mahindra, or Wipros, there was a there was somebody called a project manager. So he was partially an engineering manager and partially a product manager who is aligned, who has a team with a set of engineers and business analysts and solution architects who was doing all sort of stuff. So from there, I think the market has really evolved very well, where India has now seen a lot of product-based companies, and now we have gained a lot of experience in the overall worldwide market on how to develop products and get a broad understanding of what product manager really does. So whenever you look at a product, basically what you're doing is you have an offering for the customer, and while initial phase is that you're gonna do your dot one and dot 1.5 and 2.0, and that's the exciting phase where you everybody in the team is working on the new features, interesting fixes, and everything is going on very interesting. But after a point when you have substantial number of customers at your hand, the maintenance of the entire product itself becomes a substantial payload for your entire release. So that's where the the whole concept or the requirement of product management comes, which there is a blurred lines between project managements or so-called program managers or TPMs and product managers. So one is more leaning towards engineering, and the other one is more leaning towards the customer. So the product manager is definitely leaning towards more towards the customer side. Now, both of them, when they are looking at a payload, so what we really mean by payload is we are looking for a release, a version of the product. Now, that can be broadly divided into certain segments of percentages, like what's going to be my the product features or the customer requirements that I'm going to deliver, what is going to be my tech debt, and what is going to be my maintenance, bug fixes, and all of that. So in that form, companies tend to divide it into multiple releases, saying this is our major release and minor releases. So minor releases are primarily in line of your maintenance, the bugs and the customer fixes and all of that. Now, once when you're talking about the major release, which talks a lot more about your question, basically you need to get your grasp on what your customer is asking for, and how do you convert that ask into your product. How do you fit the customer ask into your product roadmap? So, and that's where it gets very interesting, because you cannot probably start building anything and everything that the customer is asking. It needs to align with the roadmap. And how do you strike that balance is has will become very critical to your organization, your goals, and your deliveries as well. In addition to that, how do you prioritize your customers' feedback on whether, so you need to resync your product goals on the basis of customer feedback as well, like what the customer is asking and what your product goals are. They cannot be very far apart. They have to be in line and coincide at some point. Your product needs to clearly define where it want to be, so that your customer also understands where you're trying to go and how it is solving their part of problems, or if they need to change some gear in aligning themselves, whether because what your vision is making sense with for them or not. So precisely is how you form your roadmap for your product. It's a mix of the customer requirement, their feedbacks, your tech debt, and your maintenance pieces.
Got it. I think I think there is a huge market trend that is going on, right? It's always a product market fit that was talked before, but today, if you consider a startup, it's founder market fit that is being talked today. And there's a lot happening, right? When a founder enters a market, he has to know how this product is going to scale over a course of time, and he should be ready to muzzle up his entire organization with a lot of operational aspects, right? Because
Yeah.
if it's mundane job that is done every single day over and over again, there's no possibility of growth, and there's no possibility of you know an aspect of customer success, right? There's a lot that goes behind. So let's talk about it. How to build an organization muscle. An everlasting operational problem statement is always there in an
Yeah.
organization, but how does a product leader come in and change the way that the company approaches any of these problem statements? Because once the product is built, it's not the end of it. There is a roadmap to go ahead with. There's a market to chase with, right? Because
Yes.
GenAI came in, GenAI product has to be there in my product at any cost. So
Yep.
that's what market told for the course of time. And product managers came out with amazing plans, but operations has to go on. So how do you match? How does a product leader match that requirement? Because over a course of time, it's an evolution and it's everlasting. And
Yeah.
it's never going to end. So how does a product leader fit in this problem statement?
So it's this is something which is very close to my heart. That entire topic. And it doesn't really have to be about the product manager itself. It's pretty much everybody in the organization have to align, because there is no single person who can build this muscle. It has to be built together, right? The entire organization has to come into some kind of a skeleton, modus operandi, where they are functioning in a way which is helping them build a better muscle for the entire organization. So the way I imagine it for the larger, things that I've seen being part of the industry. So I primarily put into 4-step process. If you really want to get into a rigor of an well-oiled machinery. So the first being, you need to be aware of what's happening. So I call it watchtowers. So develop watchtowers. What you really mean is that uh, if you don't know something, probably there is a better chance that you won't act on it, right? So once you set up your watchtowers on what signals you need to absorb and what actions are have to be planned based on the signals, is your starting step to building the organizational muscle. Second step to that is driving the conversation. It cannot be done in silos, and the watchtowers are not enough. They are indicators, they are leading indicators. But more essentially, you have to start driving the conversation. because the initiative that you're trying to drive from the top have to drive the entire conversation till the bottom, because everybody has to be in the same line that this is something that we are bringing in a change of how we are operating, and everybody must align to it. So it has to become a day in day out conversation for everybody in the organization. The third step to it is measure what matters. They could be hundreds or any number of metrics that may be available for you to look at, but you need to be very, very critical as an organizational leader, or even a product run company, that you need to be very critical on what you're measuring and make sure that matters for the product and the organization per se. So basically establishing a very, very clear outline of what is the definition of red or yellow or green really helps in this terms, because in the entire organization, red should mean red for everybody. They should have the same definition. You have one team cannot have something as red and another team may call it yellow. That probably not gonna fly for the very long term. The last and the most important step that I always keep talking about is fix the Lego block. So if you look at the Lego toys, they are made of small blocks. It doesn't make really a lot of sense to fix the overall picture just by cutting some corners, right, and making it look good. You really need to fix the problems, drive the change from the top, but fix things from the bottom. I think that's the way to go. Is a quick short summary of what I've seen have really worked well. Of course, there are all flavors that has worked at some places, but by and large, this thing that you drive the change from top and you really have to make changes at the bottom. Once you have fixed one team processes, replicated it to another, I think that rolls up into an organizational muscle. So once you are through with these five steps, the story, of course, doesn't stop there. And as I love to call it, it's a part art and part science. So there is, concept of art among with building the organizational muscle, and it's a partly science as well. So when
Mm.
we say art, it's like when you define processes, what does it mean? How are they going to bring the change? So you have to be very objective around it. You have to ask the why. So why are we doing the change in the process, and what's it's going to get us back? Review cycles are very important for any process to be implemented, because there is no single process that can change everything for any organization. You need to empower people to make decisions, to make mistakes, and allow them to do that, and make sure your reviews are catching it so that you make corrective actions. You
Mm.
and as we just spoke about, having a common language really helps across the organization. Like a red being a red for everybody in the organization, and yellow being yellow for everyone. So that the overall conversation becomes very easy and very objective. And there is no, you can have milestones in building the organization muscle, but there is no end to it. I've seen companies with a very long history, and they're still building it. So as more and more people gets involved, more new customer gets involved, the problems gets even interesting at the same time. So it's a journey. There is no end to it. And one of the mistakes that I've seen really people doing is they try to make large changes. That's not really the way to go, unless it's very, very, there are some mistakes at the very core level, at the fundamental level. Of course, those are major changes. But other than that, have a very clear thought process in your mind that you need to walk with giant baby steps. So make changes, but those changes should be at the lowest level, make them impactful, learn from them, and then replicate it all across. So these are the art side of building that muscle. Now the science is all that brings objectivity to this whole nuance of building it. Like you need to have everything centralized. The methods, the processes are centrally driven in an organization. You have your watchtowers up and running. You have effective dashboards that can give you indicators on where things are going wrong. One of the mistakes that people often do is dashboards are not there to tell you what's right. Dashboards are only there to tell you what's wrong. Because if you set your dashboards to tell you only what's going right, you're probably going to go in a wrong direction. Your dashboard should only talk about the bad stuff. Lastly, I mean, good, everyone is aware. I'm not saying don't do that, but focus on that. Your KPIs and your dashboard tells you the bad news pretty fast. Automation is the way to go. There is no second thoughts about it. You have to bring objectivity into the entire process that you're doing. So your OKRs need to be set up and well defined, and there is no alternate to setting up accountability. If somebody is accountable for something, they really need to deliver it, and that needs to be set up. So accountability and empowerment, like art and science, they go hand in hand. If you don't empower, you cannot have them accountable, and if you make them accountable, you have to empower them. So it has to go hand in hand. And there was a very nice comment from a very dear friend sometime back. He said, there is no silver bullet. It's all about firing lead bullets continuously. That's how you build an organization muscle.
Hmm. Because I've understood one thing: there is no me or I in the team. It's just team. You have to work with a team
Yeah,
because the moment somebody comes and says that, man, you know what, I'm working so hard, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm like, why can't you make your team work with you? Is there something wrong the team is doing, or is there something wrong that people are not educated about? Because
hmm,
there's something that goes on, right? Because uh, lot of times there is a mismatch in what a person can deliver and what the company expects from him, or else even the
yeah,
product leadership, right? Like uh, for an example, there's a lot of things that goes on in a DevOps product, and every DevOps product
yes,
is new, right? Because they are targeting a different set of people, different set of market. So I think there's a time span that has to be given to a person to understand. Okay, man, let him calm down. Let him understand the product market fit that we are chasing. Let him understand where does he fit in inside the our roadmap, and a lot of things has to go on. Oh man, I think product
yeah,
is hugely and complex agenda of any company that they have to set. I think that's
yes.
the whole point about product leadership, right? Of
And
course,
I think there is,
yeah, yeah.
sorry, I was just saying there is a very interesting concept to it. Of late, so my passion lies into productivity tooling by and large. I've seen a lot of productivity tools claiming that we are making developers more productive, and that's, according to me, is a very false statement. The only thing that makes a developer more productive is probably a better IDE, or the second best thing that can make more productive is just leave them alone. It is such a huge mistake that we tend to make mistakes in identifying who our user is and who our buyer is for a large amount of tools in certain spaces. So these productivity tools are not making a developer more productive. They are making their managers or product managers or engineering leaders or directors or VPs and everybody a little more productive. Using that productivity gain, they can provide a very crisp outline of the payload for the developer. And that's the only way he becomes more productive. In the longest time in my career, I've seen, I've handled like large program management has been a key area that spent a lot of time. I've seen the developers are most trouble when there is no clear outline of what needs to be done. They keep jumping the payload, they keep juggling with it, changing with it, and that's what really brings the productivity down for the entire team. Yeah.
I think people have to rethink what product is. If they are completely building a product specific team, right? It can't be like a product manager sitting in one corner of the cabin and just slacking people like, hey man, this is what I need. It's never going to work. I think let's talk
Yeah.
about this aspect because if you have seen, of course, you have seen the industry for a long time, but today, if you have seen, uh, companies have made an impact. Companies like, I was talking about some of the companies that I entered. I really wanted them to make sure that tool comes in the list of the job requirement that they have. That means that's a must know skill over the course of time. But some companies have really mastered it. I think it's a huge shout out to communities that are building out that companies are building out like Atlassian, Yugabyte to say has already made a huge impact in the database space that everybody wants to learn Yugabyte and they want to implement it
Yes.
in their ecosystem as well. So there's a lot of things that is going on. So building a developer marketplace, right? It's always making sure that your developer knows the tool and he's comfortable with it, and then companies are building a marketplace around it, right? There's a marketplace enablement that is happening, and it's also a self-service model that is happening over a course of time. That means there is a less involvement of a company that is building the tool, but more amount of involvement from the team that is using that tool, right? There's a lot that is happening in the market. What's the secret formula for it? Because you're seeing different organizations doing that, and you've also experienced that over a course of time. So let's let's actually debunk or actually dissect the fact that there are companies who have already achieved it, and how can a new company achieve it over a course of time.
So I don't know if there is a secret formula to that. In my point of view, it's largely driven by what basically what is your space in the ecosystem. I think it's basically driven by that. So if you are a specialized product, let's say you know any FinOps product, cloud FinOps product, they are specialized for cloud FinOps. Now, if there is a segment of organization which could be a very large segment, which are not using cloud very heavily, it's not a product for them. But on the other hand, if you look at something like ticketing system, like ServiceNow or Zendesk, or if you look at Jira, Atlassian product, you can't run a company without them. So they became becomes a staple product for that company. Like you need to have an email client inbox, right? You can't run without it. So that becomes the staple product, and that would drive the adoption, or that becomes a requirement on the resume that you are familiar with. If you go back 10, 15 years, people would ask that, are you an expert on Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel? Because you just couldn't do anything without them, right? So I think where you are in the ecosystem defines by and large on how you know how how much you can impact the overall the whole ecosystem, and how do you drive adoption in your segment as well. But yes, the companies who are in that space, I think we have seen a large, like if you look at any cloud right now, look at their marketplaces, look at a marketplace of AWS or GCP, or you look at the marketplace for Jira, Atlassian, right? Pretty famous, and there is a wide number of companies and developers who are contributing to it. A lot of times, like Nutanix for that matter as well. So they started developing their own marketplace where people can pick, install, and get going with it, right? But that is a beast to work with, to start with, and there are too many aspects to how do you really get there. I think primarily you need to understand the power of an ecosystem, and how well you are empowering, adding value to the entire ecosystem. That should be your first consideration when you're thinking about it. Uh, you really have to work hard on developing a robust tooling and resources around your product, so that people are able to adopt it without hand holding, Like you see a lot of APIs, very robust APIs, and SDKs are available for even developers to just pick and run with it. Uh, you need to be very critical on how you are developing your marketplace infrastructure. So, like developer advocacy is a very important aspect to it. And then your infrastructure, how scalable and reliable it is, how secure it is, that also drives a lot of adoption. Uh, it is very, very expensive and difficult to gain back a user who have gone out for because the platform was not reliable or because it was not secure. So that becomes a very, very important aspect. And I think the most important one is you don't have to wait for your entire product or marketplace to mature and then you're going to offer it. I think it has to be very, very iterative, and there is no need to even explain that. Fail fast is the way to go. You iterate faster on your marketplace and the entire ecosystem that you're becoming part of. Take the feedback, improve, review, and just iterate faster. So primarily, look at the ecosystem, your value add to it, develop strong APIs or SDKs or basically tooling and resourcing around it. Very solid documentation should be there. Then you start looking at a solid marketplace infrastructure, which is robust, scalable, and secured. And then you focus on your capability of iterating faster. Don't really you cannot delay it. Basically, you need to get it to the hands of the customer or the end user faster. Take the feedback and keep iterating.
Got it. I think before going to that product ecosystem fit question, because that's my favorite topic over the course of time, I've been behind that topic over the course of time because I've understood that it's not the right UI and building a very bad algorithm behind it, making a huge impact in your product ecosystem fit or anything. It's always the combined aspect of it. How does your UI talk to the entire product
Hmm.
flow that is going on and a lot of things. So I think there is a question from Kit. I'm very sorry, folks, if you're not able to add the questions, add it in my private chat. You can ask me directly on a DM, so I can just ask Gaurav about this question. I don't know why LinkedIn is having some sort of a trouble in order to give it in the comment section. So Kit is asking me a question: is better UI and KRA, or is the question goes like this: is better UI a KRA of a product manager? So I'll just rephrase this question in a way that it just makes a lot of more impact and for the following questions, because I want to ask, like, does UI and UX really matter in the product ecosystem fit, or how should we consider the flow of an entire product? Does the functionality matter more than the UI and the UX of your entire product? So that is the question that Kit is asking.
You can't look these two things in silos. They are not even different sides of the coin. They are same side of the coin. So basically, it's most important, and we should be very clear on what do we mean by UI and UX. Any interface, when you say I'm improving the UI and UX, it's not that I'm making the button a little more round or that I'm getting the better color palette. Of course, they have an impact too, but not to a very large extent. What you are really doing is you are influencing the consumer behavior, how it's interacting with the interface. You are looking at how many clicks he is making, he's doing to get to uh, where he wants to, what information he wants to find. So that is all about UI and UX. So pretty much these are the same side, and yes, they are the most important aspect. See, when you look at any interface, let me take an example of a Jira dashboard, pretty widely used thing. And the reason it comes on top of my mind is because it's extremely painful and highly ineffective. So if you have to create a Jira dashboard, you have to go back and create a filter. Once you've created a filter, once you've saved a filter, you have to make it public. share it publicly, and then you go to the dashboard, create a widget, call that filter, and select the X and Y axis. If somebody can really solve this, it doesn't my intent is I want a widget on the dashboard. So if what do you mean by a better UI and UX? You are cutting short my pains. You understand my intent and you get me to it in the fastest possible way. That's pretty much it, to put it very simply.
Okay. Venkatesh is asking a question on like performance versus the product market fit. What do you choose? I'm like, I'm like, he's one of those senior product leaders who always juggle with this question of like how performance has to go on and the product market fit has to get in. Because I've faced this over a course of time. Like there's a huge demand for the better UI and the UX that we have to just go through, but the customer really asks for I need the performance better than the better UI and the UX. But still, there are customers who ask me like I need more visibility into this system. So can you just get me a better UI and a UX? And it's okay if I have a very slow performing CI engine. So there's a lot of things that goes on. So what do you choose
I
between
see.
the performance and the product? So, what do you choose between the performance and the product market fit? How do you juggle between the both?
I think if we go back at least 5 7 years back, when integrations and a bunch of things were not that simple, I would really ask to choose one of the two. But today, I can't think of a scenario where both are difficult, because a UX, a better UX with a very low performance is no good use, and a very good performance, probably I can live with a highly performant system not looking good, right? But you see, differentiated from the user workflow. So if you are measuring performance in terms of user workflow, yes, there is no second thoughts on it. It needs to be solved. So the performance need to be higher. Just the UX alone cannot solve anything for you.
And I think, folks, I know there's a lot of DMs that is coming on me because the comment section is not available for some of the profiles. But make sure that you reach out to me. But last question for the QA because we are in the middle of a podcast. We still have to go a lot of questions. So I think one of the questions that uh, I think he's an engineering manager in one of those startups that I was part of. So he's asking me like, if you have a team of 10 developers, three marketeers, and three salesperson, how do you handle a startup today? Because I think he has a lot of experience in dealing with some startups as well as a bigger company, so he can give you a
Hmm.
better example of it. So like his question is basically like if there are 10 developers given to you and three marketeers and then one amazing sales guy, as a product leader, how do you want to navigate the team and scale the team? So I think probably he's also facing the same issue. So that's why he's asking the same question.
Yeah, it's a pretty wide one and a little open-ended too. So I'll try and attempt on it. Basically, I think the core should be driven by your product roadmap. And the first team that needs to be come on sync is your sales team and marketing team. Marketing second, probably your third, but sales team that this is the product roadmap, and sales team concur that it is something which is sellable in the market. And then you need to bring your engineering team into sync, and along with it, the marketing teams comes along. The most important aspect into this is basically two parts to it. Why why we are doing something and why not. So a lot of it could be answered by sales team, a lot of it would be answered by marketing, and a lot of it would be answered by the engineering team. There would be sometimes that you try to bring an workflow or a functionality or a feature in the product which is practically not feasible at an engineering from an engineering point of view, or it could be not feasible from a selling point of view because that's not a use case for the end customers most widely used. And that so basically bring juggling between these the customer requirements which the sales is giving you feedback on, and what the engineering can deliver will give you some better handle on your roadmap, and you'll be able to plan better on it. I think you should drive a very open communication, and that is why the most important part that I've said was answering the why of things. Once you have done that, you'll be able to get better confidence from all three teams, and you'll be better able to operate it all together. And I think
True.
the fundamental remains the same. You need to fail fast, get a product to test faster, give it in hands of a customer. You could have anything, $1 million product or $1 billion product, but it's not a product unless it's in hand of a customer. So
True. Because it's
how
true.
how ti- yeah, how tightly you run the feedback is the most important, and how well you can couple or align it with your roadmap is your skill that you need to develop.
True.
That's only
I think
secret sauce.
I think this aligns with all even the bigger organization, right? You
Yeah,
know, because TPM doesn't know what product managers are doing in their entire
yes,
flow. Engineers have no idea how customer is perceiving a product. You know, and there's no chance that a marketer knows what's happening in that entire thing, but he's just running a campaign, he's just running the
yeah,
ads, and there's a lot of things that is going on. But as a founder, you told it right. They have to align together. The sales and the marketing team has to align together about which marketplace that they're reaching to and what are the features that is going on. They have to sit tightly with the product manager, talk to them about like this is set of features that is going on in the market. Because when I do some sort of a competitive analysis, even today, or else when I in my bank in my advocacy days, it was always a loop back to my CEOs and the CTOs of the company. It's
hmm,
like, sir, this is what they need. How do we fit in? Where is our product roadmap going to be affected? Because you can't say your developer develop me 10 features and you go out in the market, nobody's perceiving that feature out there because it's there in their tool set already, but what's the advantage
yeah,
that you're adding? So there's a
yes,
lot. So let's come back to our questions, right? Product ecosystem fit.
hmm,
As a product leader, making sure the board of members understand this is what my product ecosystem fit is very difficult because they have one set of mindset where they want to capture the market as quick as possible. But as a product leaders, we have to actually educate our founders, the CTOs and the CEOs of the companies like, hey man, you know what? This is where we have to approach. This is where the marketplace is. This is a set of features that is being used in this ecosystem. So let's not deviate from what we have to deliver, but yet address the fact that we have a huge marketplace to capture and a lot of things. So let's talk about like how does a product leader perceive product ecosystem fit analysis? Because whole journey about whole journey about being in a DevOps tool or DevOps leadership, DevOps product leadership is basically like 10 customers have 10 different requirements and 10 different requirements doesn't address
yes,
my product market fit. There is one problem statement that can really fit in, but not all 10 can fit in.
yeah.
Speaking to the co-founders and CTOs, there's a lot of things that goes on. So how do you analyze product ecosystem fit as a product leader? Like you can start from your journey of analyzing your first product to what you do today as well.
I think I'm not. I briefly played an active part in defining the product requirement, in which is part of a bigger ecosystem. But I think I can definitely talk about some fundamentals around it because I've seen them at play at almost everywhere that I've been part of. The most important, I think you mentioned it in your close last few statements of your question. The most important part is you need to understand the ecosystem very well. You cannot take a shortcut in that. You need to identify the stakeholders. You need to be able to map interactions. So when you see ecosystem, it's a huge. it's a set of lot of moving pieces somehow working together using some oil and machinery. So you need to understand who the entire list of stakeholders that are part of that ecosystem, and how are the interactions between each system. And then you carefully place yourself that, this is my place, this is how I interject into this ecosystem. Now there is, then the story starts in defining what you have to achieve. Why do you want to get into the ecosystem, and what is the value that you're driving? The most important part of it is you need to define the persona on the engagement that you're going to provide or you're going to interject into the ecosystem. Once you've done that, you've come that far, you need to clearly work on getting a solid integrations uh, in the moving pieces where you have interjected yourself, and the interoperability of the entire ecosystem. Basically, how are when you become part of that system, what changes for the end consumer, how it is operating, how it is differently operating from what it was doing before. And again, as I keep saying that, the most important part is feedback and iteration. There's You have to get into that mode. Uh, for an ecosystem to become part of it, I think security and compliance becomes a very integral part. And I've seen this firsthand because these things are not on the topmost one, two, three for any company or product trying to enter an ecosystem. They are always an afterthought. Once we get to certain level of product maturity, you have to bring your focus back on compliances, certifications, and security things. Then another big thread opens up for you as a product is community building. And that's a very interesting beast in itself, because if you don't do that, nobody's probably going to notice you, that even that you are even there as part of one small tiny bit lying in the entire ecosystem. So you really, really have to work hard on community building, enable the end consumer, be it developer or any other persona of the system. Uh, you need to watch over how what is really the trend of the marketplace, where people are feeling the pain, and how it is trending, where it is trending towards. Because an ecosystem could be making big changes eventually, because the systems are no longer effective or productive or usable. So you need to keep a very, very close eye onto that. And I think post that, it's all the regular operations. You need to iterate fast, keep track of your metrics on what you're measuring and why you are measuring. And of course, you measure what matters, and just keep doing it repetitively.
True. Because I've seen some of the places where there's an amazing product, but people are not educated about it properly. And I'm like, why are you making this mistake? Because education of your customer is much more important than building an amazing UI to UX with no documentation in hand. People don't see the documentation, still they're able to do that product. There's no product like that, by the way. There is a requirement
Yeah.
for customer education, because fundamentally you have to understand that there is there's a developer enablement that we are targeting, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong because not everybody knows everything in the system. So yeah, I think you had
Yeah.
something to say.
And I actually very well put. I think the whole world can be divided on this argument that do you really? Sometimes the customer knows what they want, sometimes they don't, and largely everybody can agree to it. So a lot of times you really need to explain. You really need to get under the skin that, okay, I let's put your requirement aside. Let Tell me the goal that you want to achieve using some theory of yours, or some feature or some product of yours, a functionality that you need. So people tend to do that, and that's one of the core of how good products are made, because not always the customer is in the best state that he can tell you exactly what he needs from the product. And because they largely, everybody tend to lean towards their most soaring problem. They want the biggest car to go away most quickly as it can, right? So
Yeah.
it is interesting. I mean, these kind of things makes you feel alive that we are still dealing with humans, because they can't clearly tell you what they need. You really need to understand, interpret, and then align it with your product goals, and eventually your product goals should be reflective of that. So you can't even develop your product goals in silos, as it says that your your decisions should be driven by your instincts, and your instinct should be driven by data. So you keep
Mm.
looking at trend, how the market is reacting, how the feedback is coming, and keep absorbing it in the back of your mind, and that helps develop an instinct that this is how it's going to work. So that's why I strongly believe that instinct really plays a very important role, but they need to be trained well.
True. That's true. Let's understand your brain in the market space, right? You've been in amazing companies over the course of time, all about developer productivity. And it's not just developer productivity, it's basically cloud operations productivity, right? People deal with 10 different things which they don't know, but still a tool comes in, they help in solving that over a course of time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the cloud operations marketplace. I think it's very near and dear to me because I work in a company which is also doing the cloud operations as well. So
Yeah.
let's talk about what's happening currently in the cloud operations marketplace, and how does a product, how should a product navigate? What are the pain points and how can we solve it? Because it's a huge agenda that goes on, right? I want to really target that $1 trillion market that is your cloud space, but still, there's one player who is already playing the huge marketplace, and there's another player who's trying to enter the marketplace. There's a lot that goes on. So let's educate everybody. Let's educate everybody and let's understand your brains in the cloud marketplace.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it could be irritating. So I'll share my views. I think we are doing a big mistake on on figuring out what really the TAM is, and even I don't have the right answer. But clearly, what we are looking at right now is not the right TAM. Second is we have seen a very very large ingrowth in tools being claiming to be solving the cloud visibility problem and things around it. But so the way I put them is they are one category, which is the larger category today that I've seen is they all are trying to become a FinOps product. So basically, the end consumer is CFO, that he gets some dashboards and visibility into how are we consuming the cloud infrastructure. He doesn't understand the services that are being charged on, but he understands the dollar amount being put onto it, right? So a lot of product that I'm seeing right now are more focused towards the FinOps. Um, I am managing the same piece for my organization, and I don't think so that's solving anything for me for a maximum part of my day. I may spend 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because that can give me an indicator, okay, this place we are spending more as compared to last day or last week or last month, but that's about it. Now, what I need, my rest of the day goes into what is happening there. So getting to those details becomes more important. When you look at any cloud ops product, basically, there are four very important, and I had a recent article on LinkedIn on the same topic. The four top things that I look at is your observability. Second, non-negotiable piece is your asset management, which a lot of companies are not focusing on, or they are just scratching the surface of it. Third is your automation. If you can enable the consumer automate its workflows, and the last is policy and governance. These are the four major fundamentals, and we really need to create a mix of those. Now, here comes the challenge. Once you start getting into automation and policy and governance, you can be very intrusive. So then you become, uh, you will start leaning towards cloud management side of it or cloud operation side of it, where you will have to gain more and more access from the customer, and which could become challenging. Your foot in the door might not be enough to get you in, and that is where even tends to step back, that we really can't give a SaaS product or an outside product that kind of operating capability that it can even clear the cloud account altogether by mistake, although.
You are on mute. Uh, I think there is an issue with your this one. You're unmuted. I think you have to just unmute yourself. Are you not able to unmute? All right. Refresh the browser. Refresh the browser and join again so that it will be useful. Uh, so, hey, folks, just a technical glitch. It's a live show. Can't help it. Things happen. Things just happen. Or happen wrong sometimes. And hello, sir.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yep, I can hear you. Perfect. Perfect. Let's go on with it.
Yeah. So I was saying we really have to strike a good balance. I was evaluating a way where we can use an IAM service to get access to how you can set up your policy and governance. Seems feasible. I have not actively tried it myself, but I think I've spoken to a bunch of people and we did some rough POCs. Seems doable. So my pitch is basically for any cloud ops product. I think to sustain lo- for a bigger segment of the market, you need to give me all four pieces. Just smart dashboards is not enough. Like I can tell you, cloud health. So I had a very different opinion in the beginning, but I've spent a lot more time of late on their product, and they've done a pretty amazing job. Honestly, no other product is even close to them right now, and I wish to see many more products doing a much better job there. So you need to get your dashboards right, which is observability. Of course, your important stakeholder is your finance, the CFO, and even the engineering needs the dollars, because you need to be able to set up accountability
Unit
on that.
economics.
Yeah, unit economics for that. And once you've done that, I think the next most important part is your accountability that you set up. Sorry, the asset management. Asset management is a very wide one, and it's the most interesting one. So think about it. If I can show you all the assets on a screen, and I let's for an example, take I am able to show you all the orphan disks for a given account or a given project, right? But I'm not allowing you to delete those orphan disks from that screen itself. It's really no good use for anybody. So that is where your automation will come into play. You're able to automate those workflows so that it brings relief to the customer faster. And the last is policy and governance. Basically, you might have heard of cloud custodian. So I'm trying my hands onto it right now. We have to set up a lot of policies around how we want to operate our cloud, and a lot of governance on who gets what kind of access and how much they're consuming around it. So I think people can take a look at that article as well. I've explained in more details on what on each of these areas needed, but according to me, that's a right mix. FinOps is not going to go a long way. I'm pretty sure about that. There are just too many products, just giving me dollar numbers, and that's not enough, man. As I said, that's 10% of my time, and really, that is not enough value.
True. That's true because a lot of times people just fancy upon the modern things that is coming out in a market. They say that, you know, we have to approach this market space, we have to approach that market space.
Yeah,
Man, there is a huge demand that is getting created, not just for building out dashboards, but building an automation pipeline that is more secure and reliable at any given
yes,
point of time, like digital twin
and
technology. Yeah.
yeah, and a little less intrusive. So you really do not want to go into a complete cloud management product because the entry barrier is too high, right? Then you
Hmm.
become a very, very specialized product. You don't want to become an orchestrator. That
Hmm.
because you see, then the company have to change their entire code, and they need to their all the interfaces need to come through you to access the cloud. You don't want that because that's going to be a huge change for
Self-service.
everybody. So probably I think so. It is doable. Might try it at one given point of time. And to tell you honestly, the biggest problem in this market that's going to challenge everybody is the DevOps teams in every company. Because the
Yes.
moment you show them these products, they'll say, "Oh, we can do it on our own," and nobody is able
Yeah.
to do that.
Because I think most of my POCs that I used to do earlier was always a solid comparison between Jenkins and what does your tool offer to me. Jenkins is
Yes,
free
yes,
for me. Why should I pay you more money in order to do the same thing that Jenkins does for me for free? I'm like, it's Jenkins at the end of the day, which is not scalable. And there are so many wrappers that you feel like it's secure, but it's insecure to the core of it. I used to show them like one Shodan scan. That is an Shodan.io scan that I used to do using some sort of a tricks. I used to
yeah,
be able to access their Jenkins cluster without a VPN access, and I was able to do it. And that's how I proved some of those POCs or the customers that I had part of. Jenkins is not the goal of it, but building a more
yes,
secure infrastructure on the same CI/CD platform that you're trying to optimize on. That is my goal, and I had to educate them a lot. So yes, of course, you were true,
yep.
sir. There's a lot happening in a customer space. DevOps engineers need to be convinced to the core of the product that this product needs to
Which is
stay
a
on
tough battle.
your, yeah, which is a
Yeah.
very tough battle.
There is
Sure,
an
folks.
engineer in there is an very solid engineer in every DevOps, and I think
Yeah.
that keeps cropping back, popping back, and tell their manager that we don't need to buy this product. I can get you this report.
It's there's a Power BI dashboard versus the
Yeah.
matplotlib that I can code over code on collab or something. I think
Hmm.
everybody's looking for a free and alternative. So yeah, cool, folks. I think we are ending the broadcast. If you have any doubts, queries, and questions, do reach out to Gaurav Chanchal on his DMs. Amazing product leader. I aspire to be one like him. I hope my journey of being a product leader comes as close to what I have desired upon. Like, I want to, it's not about the roles or anything. It's all about the way I drive the teams. Hopefully I do that one day. And amazing mentor of me. I think I just look at some of his articles and I also rethink how I need to structure my brain or rewire my brain for the market. So there's a lot that is going on. So I hope this podcast was very insightful in order to get you started in that motion of how a DevOps product leadership needs to be. And hopefully you learned a lot. That's it, my friends. Hopefully we reach out to you again with a new guest, a new podcast, and hopefully not a Gen topic at the end of the day, just like this. And see you soon, folks. I think, Gaurav, do you have anything to say in the last?
Yeah. Just as a closing statement, I think my product journey, I'm definitely looking. Uh, I've not spent a very, very substantial amount of time into it. But as I said, I've seen it very, very closely, and I intend to explore this even more in coming years. And yeah, I hope this conversation is a good use of everybody's time. And any questions, feel free to ping me. Usually reachable.
Sure. All right, folks. This is Vishwasna signing off from the show. Meet you with a new guest and a new topic. See you soon.
All right.
Uh,